Markets in Asia have edged up on news that US President Donald Trump expects to meet his Chinese counterpart, President Xi Jinping, at the G20 summit in Japan later this month. But Trump was also quick to warn the Chinese leader that if Mr. Xi failed to show up, the US would slap further tariffs on an additional $300 billion of Chinese goods. Meanwhile, in a new twist of the ongoing trade dispute, China is employing a new weapon. Beijing has stepped up its threats to stop the export of rare earths to the US. That means prices would rise and America's big tech and defense companies could be hit hard. Because smartphones, laptops, aircraft engines, guided missiles, without rare earths, many products won't get made. Now, what are rare earths exactly? Well, it's a group of 17 elements, most of which you probably have never heard of. Cerium is one of them. You find it in catalytic converters in cars. Bastnasite is another one used in the nuclear industry. And if you want to make magnets, you need neodymium. And lanthanum is a glass additive used in lenses for precision optical equipment and lasers. Rare earths are not as rare as the name suggests, but they can be very hard to mine. And if you look at production figures, it's easy to see what it would mean for the tech industry around the world if China decided to throttle production or would just be a bit selective about who it sells to, because China is by far the biggest source of those elements. It supplies nearly 3/4 of all the world's productions, 120,000 tons per year. Australia comes a distant second with just 20,000 tons, followed by the US, which used to be a big producer, but now just digs out 15,000 tons of the stuff. Here's more.
China's latest weapon in the trade dispute with the USA, rare earths. State television recently showed the country's president, Xi Jinping, touring a mining company in Shanxi province. Xi didn't have to say a word. The pictures seem to carry a clear message that if U.S. President Donald Trump doesn't let up on the trade dispute, China will cut off the U.S. from these vital commodities. After the Department of Commerce brought the issue to the table, it was clear to everyone China means business. China will meet the reasonable demand of other countries for rare earths. But it would be totally unacceptable to us if these countries were to use rare earths to produce products used against China or to oppress us. China wants to defend itself against U.S. tariffs with a delivery freeze. That would hit home hard. The production of mobile phones, solar systems, computers, and some weapons would grind to a halt without China's rare earths. So the U.S. government is already looking into alternatives from regions like Africa. But it'll take years to get production there to the point where it can match industry needs. U.S. companies won't be able to wait that long.
Well, let's bring in our China correspondent, Matthias Böhlinger, who joins us from Hong Kong. Matthias, how tempting is it for Beijing to use that weapon?
It is a powerful weapon. China supplies 70% of rare earth to the world and 80% to the US. It has done so before. It restricted or stopped exporting rare earth to Japan, an economy heavily dependent on these materials, in 2010 over a political row over some islands which are situated between the two countries. However, on the long term, this might fire back. Japan has reduced its dependency on Chinese rare earth after this incident, and China has lost a WTA trade case on this. So China is still probably considering both sides, but as a threat this works well because it's such an important material, and although China is not as powerful. It used to supply more than 90% of rare earth in the world. Now it's down to 70%. It's still a major supplier.
Matthias, who would be hit hardest by this throttling of this supply of rare earths?
This phone vibrates thanks to rare earth. Lasers work with rare earths, magnets. So everywhere where this is needed, it's almost all electronics, they need this. Now, some of the companies have, of course, building stocks, and prices have, as they do in such a crisis, risen, which gives opportunities to other countries also to develop their rare earths industries. This will not kick in within 1 month or two, but on the long run, this might be also a blow to China's industries. China has the monopoly on rare earth, not only or not because it has the largest supplies, but it was able to produce them cheaper. It's a dirty business, and many countries have gone out of this business because it was too expensive to produce them. This might change now.
Matthias Böllinger, thank you very much.